Good morning, church. Church, I'd like to read a passage of scripture from Proverbs. And I'm at Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. Amen. 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 Good morning, church. Good morning. Listen. Hey, good morning at home, church. We don't always understand His plan. We don't always. For over a year, we've been meeting outside, and I will still say that God's own creation outdoors is more beautiful than anything a man can make. Yes? Yes. And we don't know why we missed last Easter, and then Christmas Eve, and then this Easter, but you know what? It doesn't matter. Because all we have to do is be convicted. Understand that His plan is always perfect. He wanted us in here this morning, and so this morning we are here in this place. Amen? Amen. Amen. Are you ready to worship? Yes. Would you please stand?
We've overcome. family. Good morning. How are you guys liking our redecorated sunshade? Got the fans working a little better to keep everybody cooler and stuff like that. So, you know, it took us a lot of time, and you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't make sure I was inviting on stage the person most responsible for what we've got done here so far. That's Jesus' Holy Spirit. Thank you, Jesus, for all the guidance, for guiding all the people, all the hard work that's been done to get us to this point. We're not done yet, as you guys know, but it is nice on a nice hot, Sunday afternoon. We just saw our parking lot guys come in drenched, so you know that's what we would all be doing in about another hour after we're sitting out there. So thank you. First thing I want to get out, we are in here. There is a working fire alarm in this building, and one thing we will remind people of over and over again: if the fire alarm goes off, you need to leave the building. So, been there before, seen it not happen. So when that does happen, all of you people over here, go out that door. All of you people over there, go out that door, and you guys can split, and everybody else out the back. I'm doing my best flight attendant. Thanks, Jesse.
Well, it's 2 fingers.
Well, holding these, it gets tough, so. And as far as restrooms, the restrooms right here are not operational yet, but the one in the front, if you go back to where you came in, right across the hall there's a room that is our prayer room, and if you go in there to the right, there's a nice little restroom in there for you to use if you gotta go. And if there's a line there, if you just go out that door outside, our Rolls Royce porta potties are outside still. So if you gotta go, now you know where you gotta go. Now, connection cards. We used to say, hey, go back to the table in the back and grab a connection card, but if all you people, except you people in the front row, if you look in front of you on the seats, we've got connection cards and offering cards in there for you to fill out. Your prayer requests are important to us. We want to know what's on your heart, on your mind, and what we need to be praying for. If you have something that's more immediate, you'll see several people around here with orange lanyards. They're prepared to pray for you on the spot if you're ready to do that. But the other end of the communication cards, if you're new, if you want us to know who you are, we're not going to attack you. We will probably give you a call just to say thank you. But if you fill them out, same thing. We have an offering box just outside the doors here to the left. That's where you would just put those cards, or just hand it to one of the ushers or myself, or find somebody to hand it to. We'll all take it. Jan will take them, whatever. I mean, it's just we'll do it. As far as giving, we believe that your tithes are between you and the Lord. So we're not going to pass a plate. That same offering box I talked about outside the door, you can put your checks there. Your checks made out to Christ Family Christian Church or CFCC. Put them in the box. A lot of you, myself included, enjoy doing it online at our website, cfcc.church. You can also, if during the week a prayer request comes up, you can go on there and enter anything. Just go to that connection link or the giving link, and you can make your donations and your tithes that way. By the way, only 3 pages to go through today. We're down 1 down, 2 to go. Okay, starting next week, I want to think about this because all of you guys that showed up here at 10 o'clock, you will be an hour late for first service. We will be having 2 services starting next week at 9 o'clock and at 11 o'clock. And those of you that can, come to the 9 o'clock. As you know, we have challenging parking and stuff like that. We do plan on having a sheriff's department officer out at the street out there to give us a little bit of safety getting in and out of here, especially between 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock when the one group's leaving and the next group's coming in. And the reason they put me on the welcome today is they know I never take just 5 minutes, and this is the last time that I can go as long as I want. So Pat will be over there tapping on his watch next, when I do it next time, because I'll be running too long. So yes, please keep in mind that we will have the 2 services. Spread the word. I know you guys all came in here in the morning very, very surprised. It wasn't a surprise to all of us. We knew this was happening, but we wanted it to be the people that have been coming along on this ride, not all the other people that are looking forward to joining us now that we're inside the building. Next week, invite your friends. Invite them all. We'll be ready. We'll have 2 services, so we'll have room for about 270 people for 2 different services. So didn't want to have about 50 people standing if they all showed up this week. Next Sunday, we will also have the Bloodmobile here. So we'll find a place where they don't take up too many of our parking spots to park them out there, but they'll be here for both services. So keep that in mind. You may want to come a little early, either for first or second service, and go visit them and donate your blood. I will not be the one fighting you to get in there. Eagles and Glenn just don't get along. So, all right, the property purchase. If you guys haven't heard, it is definitely moving forward. We will be closing on it sometime end of June or July 1st at the latest. And the round of applause goes out to all of you that have been blessed to be able to bless this opportunity and to be able to guide us to be able to purchase that, because we're not doing it without you. If the money didn't come in, we had already agreed. If we didn't get the money we needed to close on it, then it wasn't meant, but it came real easy. So thank you to all of you that did. And now's the part where those of you that did, sometime between now and the beginning of June, please get us the money. And we'll kind of need that in sometime in June. If you're going to write a check, and some of you already wrote a check, we've just been keeping them off to the side here until we got to this point, but if you're going to write a check, just make it out to Christ Family Christian Church, and in the notes at the bottom, just right there, that it's for the property. Please don't include it with your normal tithe. It'll just confuse the heck out of us, and we're easy to confuse, so please don't do that. If you're going to do it online, then online, just go into the giving link online, under cfcc.church, you see give, and then it gives you 2 options. One is the general, and then the other is for the building project. Just do it under building project. We'll be looking for that. All right, and yeah, I got that. So we're on the last page, guys. We're getting there. And just so you know, I had to add one because Sarah came up to me, and we have to let all the people know that are signed up to be on her cafe team to please see her after service. So she'll be hanging out in the cafe. She just wants to talk to a few of you and make it to where she doesn't have to stand at the cafe 24/7 on Sundays. So please remember that. And second to last, the men's dinner is, just a reminder that the men's dinner is this Tuesday at 6 o'clock. All of you that signed up, please plan on being there. We're looking forward to everybody having a lot of meatloaf and some white meat. I haven't been told what the white meat is yet. What's that? Real? Okay, grilled chicken. Now we know what the white meat is. Grilled. Real chicken. I didn't know what fake chicken was, but I was just going with it. Yeah. Yeah. My assistant here, I appreciate it. All right. That's all I've got for you guys. It has been a blast, and let's continue that. But let's go to the Lord first. Oh, Lord, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity for blessing us with this awesome building, with all the people that have helped us get this far, and Lord, we can't even imagine the joy that we saw in faces coming into a building. It's just an old building with some lipstick on it, but the joy that was felt just walking in the door today, and the joy of just singing praise to you, Lord. We thank you for loving us and guiding us. In your name, Jesus, we pray.
Could you please stand, church?
Are you past the point of weary? Is your burden weighing heavy? Is it all too much to carry? Let me tell you about my Jesus. Do you feel that empty feeling? 'Cause change done all is stealing, and you're desperate for some healing. Let me tell you about my Jesus. He makes a way where there ain't no way, rises up from an empty grave. Ain't no sinner that he can't save. Let me tell you about my Jesus. His love is strong and his grace is free, and the good news is I know that he can do for you what he's done for me. Let me tell you about my Jesus, and let my Jesus change your mind. Hallelujah, 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 amen, amen. You can wipe away the tears, broken dreams and wasted years. Tell the past to disappear. Oh, let me tell you about my Jesus. And all the wrong times that you would go and undo if you could you work it out for your good? Let me tell you about my Jesus. He makes a way where there ain't no way, rises up from an empty grave. Ain't no sinner that he can't save. Let me tell you about my Jesus. His love is strong and his grace is free, and the good news is I know that he can do for you what he's done for me. Let me tell you about my Jesus. Let my Jesus change your life. Hallelujah, 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 amen, amen. Who would take my cross to Calvary, pay the price for all my guilty? Who would care that much about me? Let me tell you about my Jesus. He makes a way where there ain't no way, rises up from an empty grave. Ain't no sinner that he can't save. Let me tell you about my Jesus. His love is strong and his grace is free, and the good news is I know that he can do for you what he's done for me.
church. So this is going to be the song that leads us into communion. So as we sing the song and this song builds, just see yourself in his throne room and the blessings, even before, of course, that you even walked into this place this morning, the way that he blesses each and every one of us. Let's be thankful and let us remember those blessings as we go into this time of communion here after this song. Sing with me, church. Alone in my sorrow and dead in my sin, lost without hope with no place to begin. I think you're gonna have to stop this song. Okay, hey, it happens, you know.
Practice. We need to practice.
One more time.
Pulling the curtain behind here, you can see what we go through sometimes. But hey, like I said before, we're at home and we can have these things occur with family. Where can we have these things occur, right? All right, help me sing, church. Alone in my sorrow and dead in my sin, lost without hope with no place to begin. Your love made a way to let mercy come in. When death was arrested and my life began. Ash was redeemed, only beauty remains. My orphan heart was given a name. My mourning grew quiet, my feet rose to dance. When death was arrested and my life began. Thank you, Jesus. For your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. Released from my chains, I'm a prisoner no more. My shame was a ransom he faithfully bore. He canceled my debt and he called me his friend. When death was arrested and my life began. Oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. Savior displayed on a criminal's cross. Darkness rejoiced as though heaven had lost. But when Jesus arose, we found freedom in hand. That's when death was arrested and my life began. Oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made
I think I'd be remiss before I get started with my remarks if I didn't ask you to help me thank our praise and worship team. They just do an awesome job every week. And it's a lot of work. What a great morning.
Amen.
As I get started, I'm wondering, could somebody bring a fan over here to blow my papers? If my papers aren't blowing around, I'm not at home. Most people in this room are old enough to remember when Coca-Cola came in those cute little bottles. Remember that? Or when Coke came in bottles at all. Well, if you were like me, I used to run around the neighborhood collecting all those bottles, and everybody would give me any of them, because you could take them back to the store and get them redeemed for 5 cents a piece. 5 cents a piece back then, I was rich. I got 5 cents for a Coke bottle, I was rich. Ladies may remember, or if you don't, your mother will remember, S&H green stamps. I remember going to the grocery store, waiting until my mother had paid for the groceries, and then the cashier would, it seemed like a half an hour, reaming out those S&H green stamps. Then you went home, licked them all, stuck them in a book. 50 to a page, 1,200 to a book. Unless you were my mother, and then you had your son. When you got enough books, you bundled them all up together and just sent them off. And they redeemed them for something in the catalog that you decided that you wanted. And that's just kind of how it works. Now, I've been up here before, and I know that you guys, once again, are way ahead of me. As soon as I said the word redeemed, you knew where I was going, which is a good thing. Just like we exchanged Coke bottles and S&H green stamps for something of value, excuse me, God exchanged his perfect lamb to redeem us. You see, redeem means to buy back or repurchase. In his first letter to the churches of Rome, located in what we now know as Turkey, Peter wrote, and this is in 1 Peter 1, for you know that it was not with perishable things such as silver or gold that you were redeemed from the empty way of life handed down to you from your ancestors, but with the precious blood of Christ, a lamb without blemish or defect. He was chosen before the creation of the world, but was revealed in these last times for your sake. Through him, you believe in God who raised him from the dead and glorified him, and so your faith and hope are in God. I truly hope that your faith and hope are in God. That you know that you're redeemed the moment the stone was rolled away from the tomb. And that you have accepted God's forgiveness. Because we're about to celebrate that this morning. We're going to celebrate our redemption. And I want you to celebrate. We are so happy that we don't still live in that empty way of life. We celebrate, excuse me, because the price has been paid for us with Christ's blood. We are redeemed.
Amen.
If that's not you, that I just described, then let the plate pass by as we celebrate. But if you want to leave the empty way of life behind, if you want to live a forgiven life, please take action today. See me or anyone else around this building and find out about your redemption. Let's pray together. Lord, our faith and hope are in you. Thank you for redeeming us through the sacrifice of your Son, Jesus. Father, for those here who have not yet accepted your forgiveness, let today be their day. Our prayer is that all of your children will celebrate together here next week. Please bless this time of celebration. In Jesus' name we pray. As the men come to distribute the communion elements, Please note, there are 2 cups, one with the wafer, one with the juice. And please hold both of them so we may celebrate together as a family. When you're finished, we won't come and collect them anymore. You can just stick them in the little holder under the seat in front of you. If you're in the front row, I have no clue. Please hold the bread before the Lord. While they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take and eat. This is my body." And now the juice. Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins."
One thing that we have learned through this process of being at CFCC is that we've learned patience, perseverance, been able to make some great relationships with people working side by side, and we realize that the timing is all on God's schedule and not ours. And once you get to the point that we are here to serve and worship Him, then everything falls into place.
Learned a lot of patience, obviously, and I'm really looking forward to being in our new building where we can really invite a lot of people that maybe have not had the interest to come out in the natural environment to worship with us. So come visit us.
In being here at CFCC, the Lord has shown many different things. One, first and foremost, is patience, and He's got it. We need a lot of service work done here, and we prayed to the Lord, and He's added those that we needed.
God is active. He's just in all aspects of our being here, relationships, people coming in, meeting people for the first time and becoming friends, really good friends. God just working through all situations, Bible studies, the weather, different things that have happened on a natural basis, and I've seen where everything has worked out for the good.
The one thing that has really impacted me more than anything is just how much time that I get to spend with God by myself. Through all the hustle and bustle and all the busyness that takes place, that's one thing that I don't want to give up. And I know it's not something that is readily visible, but the drive from my house to here, or our house, is about 20 minutes, and that gives me a lot of time that I can reflect on the things going on, how God has really revealed to me that, you know, it was this place all along, and that we needed to, that I needed to continue to focus on Him and to seek Him regularly, and that quiet time and those quiet drives, and even the time sitting alone, that's where I want my attention to be.
Well, one of the things for sure we've learned through this process of what God is teaching us has been about family. I remember when we sat down thinking about this new church idea, one of the things we had to think of first, believe it or not, was like, what are you going to call it? What are you going to call yourselves? What's the name? And we definitely wanted the word family in there somewhere. I think this world's full of a lot of broken families and a lot of people who even have good physical families, but not a great spiritual one. So for me, we've really learned the meaning of what family is through this whole process so far. So many unknowns, so many things outside of our plans, but our family is stuck together through this whole thing. I can't brag enough on Christ Family Christian Church. We're just a bunch of overcomers. Like, we've dealt with so much adversity, so many things, but we just overcome together as a family. So yeah, family for us, for me.
I agree, definitely. And people, just life is about people and bringing them to Jesus. And what have I learned this year? Patience. A calmness, and just giving it all to God. That's all we can do every day, is just give it to Him. We're not supposed to worry about tomorrow. I know we're in a building that we've been waiting to get into. However, God knows, it's God's timing. But like Pat said, it's all about family. It's all about people. And we're just so blessed to have every one of you in our lives, and for those to come.
And she's pretty cool too.
So, I'm loud. Welcome home. All right. I mean, it's been a long time coming, right? It seems like you guys are in a celebratory mood. I still am. It's been a long time since we just kind of celebrated God. And so, would you guys mind standing up with me and let's just give God a round of applause? Can you do that? But I'm looking at a bunch of faces that are just overcome with joy about being here. And it's not this building per se, it's the symbolism of what this is, what has got us here. And God's been talking to me through this last couple weeks, knowing we were getting close to moving in here. And for some reason, you know, God does this. He brings you, if you seek Him out, He often brings you to Scripture. And He brought me this book called Joshua, if you've ever read this. And God did an amazing thing in the book of Joshua. He had been talking about delivering the Israelites into the promised land. If you guys know a little bit of this story, He delivered them from Egypt, right? This book of Exodus talks about that, where He took a couple million people and delivered them out of Egypt on dry land as they walked through the parting of the Red Sea. You guys know this story, right? A deliverance, if you will. It's amazing to me that the Israelites watched that happen and yet still grumbled and still lost their faith in God, still forgot how to trust God. They literally walked across a sea on dry land. And then as the Egyptians tried to chase them, that sea collapsed on them. And then they were delivered, and yet they still grumbled. I don't want to do that here. There's an interesting thing that happens after that. God said, I'm going to teach them how to trust me again. And He supplied their daily needs, just daily. They didn't know what was happening down the road, but daily needs were met with food and clothing and all the things we worry about sometimes, right? But daily God showed up. In fact, what happened is he taught them over a course of 40 years as they wander around. As God said, follow this pillar of smoke during the day and a pillar of fire at night. I'll be with you. And what happened is they learned how to trust God. And as the older generation that was delivered kind of died off, the newer generation was just, that muscle was built for them. And they learned how to just trust God. And then when the time came for God to deliver them into the land he had promised, they were ready to go. They trusted God. And they did. As you guys know, God delivered them into this new promised land, the land we currently call Israel today. God delivered. And you guys probably heard the story about a city called Jericho, where God busted the walls down. They were able to go in and take that city, and many like it. But before all that great news happened, before they were delivered, God taught them one more lesson on faith, didn't he? If you guys know this story, you know that they had to cross one more body of water, the Jordan River. But the neat thing about that was the Jordan River, at the time when he brought them in, was swelled up. It was harvest time, and the river was wide. There was just a lot to it. And he told Joshua, now the leader of the Israelites, trust me on this. Take the tribe of Levi and get all the tribe of Levi, which were the teachers, if you will, the rabbis for Israel at that time, and have them carry the ark of the Lord, the symbolic message, if you will, of God being with them. And have them go and put their feet in the water. And then I'll part this water. And they did. They trusted God. And wouldn't you know, as soon as they got down and their feet were in the water, that water backed up, it says, into a heap, as far back as the city of Adam. You guys remember that name? As in Adam, the first man on earth? And they walked. Now a whole country of people walked again on dry land into the promised land. But God taught them one last lesson there. If you guys know this story, he says, take one person from each tribe and go back to the center of that river where you guys walk on dry land and grab a stone. Stones, they said they carried them on their shoulders, so it wasn't a small rock, it was a stone. And he said, build an altar for me in this new land. We kind of did that yesterday as we cleaned this place up. You see that pile of rocks over there? It's for this reason. We went out and picked 12 rocks from our area out here so that we wouldn't forget. And this was the lesson God taught them. So that when your descendants ask, what are these stones for? You remember he said, so the powerful hand of the Lord delivered us. And so these may not stay here forever because that would be silly. And they're small rocks, but we thought it would be symbolic to go out and kind of gather some rocks. Some of the staff and Glenn was with us yesterday who did the welcome. And we just kind of thought it'd be neat to grab a couple rocks from this place so that we don't forget. And so Christ Family Christian Church, when you invite your neighbors to this place, or you have kids, or whoever you invite to come here asks, tell us about this building. Let's not forget that powerful hand of the Lord delivered. Once again, this is a neat place. It's got some air conditioning, which is a big bonus for us. But you guys still understand that this was just a building until you showed up. Until the Holy Spirit of God living inside of you showed up to this place. This is just a building. We're excited about worshiping the Lord in it. We're excited about who the Lord will draw to us. But remember, who he's drawing is to us, the Spirit of God that lives inside of us. Let's not forget that. This is a great place to worship, and I'm excited about doing it. I'm excited, as it was mentioned, to hold this Bible here and not have pages blow all over the place. But it doesn't become special at all until you get here. You are the church, not this building. Let's never forget that, okay? Yes. So, you guys know we've been talking about this idea of faith over the last couple of weeks. I want to take a break from that. I want to pause and do exactly what the Israelites were to do, and that's just celebrate God. I want to take 4 weeks and just stop and just celebrate what he's done so far. I don't want to miss this. I don't want to forget what God has done to get us here. So for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be doing some interviews. We're going to just stop and celebrate God. And I love the book of Psalms. Psalms has some great, where David and some of the other psalmists just stop and they just celebrate God and they talk about who he is and how powerful and how majestic he is. I don't want to not do that right here as we have now moved into a promised land or promised building, if you will, here. So let's celebrate God together. You guys want to do that? Let's just take a break, breathe, and celebrate Almighty God. Today I want to look at the 8th Psalm. It's a beautiful one. If you have your Bibles, we will have the words on 2 screens now, not the screen. And I just want to slowly study some of these things with you guys. I really want to celebrate God. That's kind of the idea that God put in my heart over the last couple weeks. Just celebrate Him. Remember what He's done. Let's not look past. You know what I hate to do sometimes is God has shown up so much in my wife and I, our daughter's lives over the last couple of years specifically, long before that, but in the last couple of years He's done so many great things. And when somebody asks me the story, sometimes I feel weird about trying to tell a God-sized story in a Reader's Digest version. You guys know what I mean? You ever been there? Sometimes when God shows up, you have to tell the details. And so I just don't want to do that. I don't want to miss what God's done here. And so let's just celebrate God. Chapter 8 of Psalm, verse 1. Listen to this. I love this verse. Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. Stop and breathe that in just for a second. Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. Y'all believe that? Man, I do. You have set your glory in the heavens. Verse 2, he says, through the praise of children and infants, you have established a stronghold against your enemies to silence the foe and the avenger. Listen to that. The praise of children and infants. I like to think of myself often as one of God's children. I just am so small in comparison to what the universe is. Our God is so powerful. But listen to this. There's a story in the New Testament where Jesus is sitting there and the children are coming to Him. You remember the disciples go, no, you're going to a rabbi there. He doesn't have time for you. And you remember his response? He's like, no, let him come. Let him come. In fact, you can't even come to me unless you come to me like one of these children. We need to have that blind faith of a child, that I trust you, God, and that idea that I need you for everything. I am nothing without you, God. Through the praise of children and infants. Verse 3 says, when I consider your heavens, the works of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place. Think about that verse now just for a second. When's the last time you stopped and just considered the works of God's hands? That powerful hand that parted waters, that delivered countries, nations, that delivered land. Man, don't you guys do this? I do. I'm guilty of this. I get going so fast sometimes I forget to stop and just look up. We live in a beautiful state where there's great sunsets and beautiful sunrises and there's beautiful trees and there's birds and stuff everywhere you look, and just stop and consider God and celebrate Him. When I consider what you've done. Verse 4, he says, when I consider this, what is mankind that you are mindful of them? Human beings that you would care for them. Wow, God, it was amazing. When I stop and consider, and I go outside at night and I look on a nice clear night and you can see stars as far as you can see. And consider that God did all that. And then He placed this beautiful planet called Earth in the middle of it. And then He filled it full of all kind of magnificent sights and mountains and lakes and streams and water and all the things you guys know and enjoy about our beautiful planet. And to know that you are the centerpiece of it. It was all made for you. You are the apple of God's eye. You are the center of all creation. Only you are made in His image. None of those other things are. Wow, when I consider that, what am I that God is mindful of me? What an awesome God we have. Verse 5, he says, you have made them a little lower than the angels, and listen to this, and crowned them with glory and honor. God has crowned you and I with glory and honor. You have made them rulers over the works of your hands, and listen to this, you have put everything under their feet. You are to manage and be over all of God's creation. Tell me you don't have a relationship with God when we read this. Tell me we're not worshiping some rule maker far away in the sky that can't wait to punish you when you do something wrong. David knew better than this. He understood what God did for us and who we are to Him. That He would send His Son to die on the cross in our place. We just talked about that. That's the God we serve. That's the intimate relationship He wants to have with you. Why would we not stop and celebrate that God? And this is where God talked to me this last couple of weeks. Stop and just remember. Consider. the power of that majestic hand, and that he wants to live life with me. Verse 7, he says, all the flocks and the herds and the animals of the wild and the birds of the sky and the fish of the sea, all that swim in the paths of the seas, even the little wiggly guys that crawl on the ground that my wife loves so much, that celebrated church with us a couple weeks ago outside. I know some of y'all saw them guys. All of them are under our feet. It was all for us. That's a God worth celebrating. Amen? Amen. Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You know, Scripture says that the enemy is defeated by the blood of the Lamb and the testimony of the saints. And so part of this process, we know the blood of the Lamb has already happened, and the testimonies of the saints are still happening today. I don't know if you guys ever thought about the fact that God refers to you as a saint. You can read some of Paul's writings. He says to the saints in Philippi, right? To the saints, he refers to you as saints. And so we want to continue to testify what God has done. We don't want to celebrate us. We want to celebrate God through the stories in our lives. And so I'm going to bring up a couple guys to start this process off that have great testimonies. If it's your first time today here, or you're very new to this process, this started back in the end of 2019. We had this crazy idea to plant a church. In January of 2020 was our first official day as a church. 3 months later, something different happened that changed our plans. You guys know that story. An idea called COVID. But God grew us. God taught us patience. God was teaching us to be faithful to Him and to have faith in Him and to trust Him. He's got the plan worked out. Here we sit today because of some ideas that happened, a couple of years ago now. And so to bring a couple of guys up, you guys know they're around here somewhere. Come on up and find a stool. But Glenn, you've already heard from him this morning. He's one of our elders. This guy has a full-time job and a family like many of you. And he's a shepherd elder of this church, which takes the responsibility of a lot of things. And yet he took on this building process. So thank you so much for your efforts in this. I know it's not been easy. Let me ask you a quick question. Glenn, would you do it all over again?
Yes.
Okay. Next two guys are Mike and Clarence. They're two other of our elders. Come on over here, Mike. I'll let you sneak through. I'm little. All right. These two guys, I love these guys. These are those guys that are the last to speak. If you know them, you know that's true. They don't talk, they say. Do you know what I mean by that? A lot of people talk, these guys say something. When they say something, it means something. And it doesn't always come out of their mouths. What they say with their humble way they lead and the way they live life, I want to be like these guys when I grow up. I really do. I want to be more like these guys when I grow up. So thank you for your humility and the way you guys carry yourselves. The last guy I want to bring up is not a member of this church. You see, a lot of us were called to go. This guy was called to support those who went. He is a member of CCW, or Christian Church in the Wildwood. If you guys don't know that, that's the church we planted from. Come on up, John. This guy is amazing. This guy is, I don't know why he chose to help us. He's going to explain that in a minute, but he was called by God to help us. This whole thing, come on up. I know he's humble too. I also want to be like you when I grow up. Come on over. Thank you so much, guys. There's some mics there. But this whole process, believe it or not, started off not in a building like this. It started off in a minivan. All right? In his minivan. As we travel around Homosassa, we started over here from the county line. That's it. Can you imagine 5 guys stuffed in the back of that thing? I was a little guy, so of course I'm in the back, but it all started, 6 sometimes, that's right. But this is how this process started. And we don't want to forget where this started. We want to stop, celebrate God, and remember how it all started. So these guys, you can have a seat. You all got mics. And that's what I want to get their side of the story. Glenn and Clarence and I have talked in depth about this, and Mike's one of the newer elders, but he was part of this process early on, so they have a different view of the story. And something tells me if you were to ask the tribe of Israel, the nation of Israel, as they walked across dry land, they would have a different story than, am I in front of the speaker too much? They would have a different side of the story, a different viewpoint. So we want to get those viewpoints and just celebrate God through the testimony of these saints. Is that okay with you guys? Yes. All right. Thanks for coming up. So tell me, in each of your words, when God showed you that you were supposed to be part of this process. Kind of explain that to me. You don't have to Reader's Digest it. We're not going to do that. But when you knew God was telling you, go, and in your case, when God was telling you, help these guys out, I've got a plan. So you can just kind of go as you want. But yeah, you're the guest. You go first.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. Cynthia, my wife Cynthia and I had been a part of a church plant before. And we spent 4.5 years at a church plant. And we both knew what it took to do this. The dedication, perseverance, and the faith, the commitment to do it. And so when you guys, that church had kind of dissolved in a way, and we came back to CCW. And that was the first church plant that CCW did, as far as my understanding went. But we came back to CCW to rest. We were worn out, you know. It's hard work. It's hard work, and there was some disappointment in that too. We have to be honest with it, the way it all happened. The second church plant was the Go Church, and that was much better thought out and better execution of that church. And then you guys are, in my mind, the third church plant for CCW. I remember Dave preaching many, many, many years ago how his desire was to plant 7 churches in Hernando, Citrus counties. And so Cynthia and I both have a heart for the adventure, let's say, and the new. And so that's why I knew that when you guys stepped up to do this, I knew all of you very well for years. I could see the different giftedness that God's provided in this eldership, this body. And I said, man, Cynthia and I weren't ready to go. We knew that. We needed to rest. But you guys stepped up, and whatever I could do to help you, I was going to do. So that's how it started with me. Well, you don't want to get into those details then.
Well, I kind of dragged him into it as the real truth, so.
Well, you got to be guilted me into it.
Whatever.
A previous spiritual teaching that we both grew up under as kids, the guilt, yes.
Hey, it worked.
It's still there. So yeah, that's how I knew that I was supposed to help. I mean, there wasn't even a question in my mind. It's just like, well, whatever you can do to help these guys, you got to help.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, a lot of hard work. It was cramming in the back of a van isn't everybody's cup of tea, but it was so, we had this excitement about what God was going to do. And is that something I'm doing wrong, Frank? Oh, we're too close? It's okay. We're still learning this building out. So.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, so I feel like you guys are way down there, but I still love you down there. You guys know that, right? So feel free to share your part. Now, Mike, you came along a little bit later too. So I mean, but we had some talks at a work day about this idea too. So if you guys feel free to share how this started for you.
I'll jump in. I was at the time that we were getting ready to plant the next church, I was a sitting elder at CCW with our buddy Tim. And by the way, Tim, if you're watching this, we really, really are sad that you're not here with us today, brother. But Tim and I were meeting on a regular basis every week at that point, and I remember conversations that him and I had, because we weren't seeing anybody step up. We weren't, especially out of eldership, and they're like, they ought to just, as Tim put it, stick a fork in it, because it's done. It's just packed. Can't do this if it's just packed. And remember, he was getting ready to preach the sermon. He was this was going to be the big push sermon. And what I knew without a doubt is that there was no way that my awesome wife was going to do a church plant. There was just no way. It's just, she was at home. We spent a lot of years wandering. We found CCW back in 2009. And yeah, she wasn't going to leave. And Pat went and asked the question, told us all, talk amongst yourselves. Who's ready to go? I leaned over to my wife and I said, are you ready to go? And she said, yes. I'm like, whoa, okay, once again, Glenn assuming. And yeah, I said, we're gonna have to talk tonight, and we did. And a couple days later, Tim, and I haven't talked to Tim about this yet, and talked to Pat about it, because we had a lunch plan with Pat to discuss something else, some changes with the usher team that we were all a part of at CCW. And he sits down across from the table at West Shore Pizza Place, and he immediately looks across the table at me and says, like, hang on, Glenn, this isn't for you. And he turns to Tim. He goes, Tim, you gotta be one of the guys that's feeling called to go. And Tim just stared at him, and I said, Sandy and I are gonna go. And Pat turned around like, okay, what, Sandy also said you're gonna go? I'm like, yeah. So I wasn't the only one that didn't think that there was any chance that my awesome wife was going to say yes. But thinking ahead for the Holy Spirit. There's been a whole bunch of that, because one of the things that we agreed on at that table, because Tim then told his testimony, and I'm not going to tell it. We'll let him tell it next week or whenever he's up here. But what the three of us agreed on is that we definitely feel called to do a church that meets in an awesome room like this that's all set up. We definitely are not going to do a church that you have to set up every week and tear down every week. We are not going to do that. We all shook hands, high-fived, like, yes, we are absolutely not going to do that. So once again, thinking ahead of yeah. That's where John actually came along, because him and I get together every Monday. One of us burns off more calories walking than the other one does. But,
No way.
Yeah. That's it. And he had experience with rental properties and stuff like that, which is why I gently, forcibly asked him to be a part of that. And he offered to drive us around in his little minivan, and it's Cora that I love, Yeah. Just imagine, okay?
Still got it, too.
Yeah, he's still. You have to yell about it. You got him driving, Clarence in the passenger seat, and then you got myself and Tim in the middle seat, and we've got Pat, and we made him slide into. Well, we didn't make him. He was generous enough to climb in the back. And Dale, for you guys that remember our buddy Dale. We had him climbing in the back. He had to buy a set of tires after we were done.
How about you guys?
Well, the way things started for me was,
We gotta turn those on. Sorry, hit those buttons. We're still learning this building and everything about it.
yeah, so the way things got started, I say it for me, but for us, I was up for sabbatical. Held at CCW, and so I was ready for a rest. We had a trying 3 years, and so I was ready for a rest. And just listening at the other brothers, they was talking about who's going, and no one was saying anything. Everybody just kind of sitting back. And so it looked a little, and I don't want to really use the word doubtful, but it looked a little, And so eventually, Pat said, well, I'm going. And then after that, Glenn and Tim, I still didn't say anything. I'm still looking at a rest. So I'm thinking, okay, another 3 years we go, so. So anyway, I still didn't say anything, so everything had subsided, and a couple days passed. Pat and I was meeting at the time over in Building D, and we had another brother meet with us. Matter of fact, he even come to the Lord as a process of that meeting. So on Tuesday morning, and that was when we met,
Pat came over and we prayed, getting ready for Bible study. Then Pat started to, I didn't let him finish. He started to say, "Are you going?" So, but I just stepped in and I said, "Pat, I know what you're going to say, and the Holy Spirit already told me." And I said, "Yeah, I'm going," you know. So, I just got to tell my wife. So,
that's a true story.
So, she and I had already talked about it previous to anything coming to a head. And we went back and forth. We never did make a decision one way or the other. But again, after Pat had asked, again, I didn't let him ask. I told him that we was going. Having the Proverbs wife that I have, Proverbs woman, Proverbs 31, for those of you, Bible school. She, I ain't had no doubt, you know, that she was going to say yes. And so it was, we talked about it, and again, we kind of went back and forth prior to that, but when I told her that we, you know, that I was planning on going, and I talked to Pat about it, and she agreed, so it wasn't a problem. So, my story short, but yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Marcia. I'll let them borrow your husband. Mike's got a different angle, so talk to me about yours.
So my story's a little bit different. I knew before these guys did that I was going to be here.
All right.
It started 17 years ago. 17 years ago, my wife Carol and I, and we had a granddaughter at the time that we had custody over, moved to Citrus County. We started the process when we moved here of looking for a non-denominational Christian church in Citrus County. We visited several, and there was one common denominator among those churches. There were no young people. There were no children. There were no young families. We had a 5-year-old. We had grown up in the church. We knew how important it was to have a grounding in that. And so we said, we need to do something. We need to be someplace. So the Lord directed us to CCW. It's about an hour from where we live, so we drove an hour each way to go to CCW. They had the programs that we needed. We also found out that during that time, that was 2005, and just kind of working on the last building that they built, and it was told to us by our dear friend Dave that there wouldn't be any more buildings at CCW. The next activity would be to plant churches, and that really appealed to us. Knowing that we could come back to Citrus County at some point and be part of a church that really cared about young people, the next generation, and that's why we're so happy that we were able to be here and be part of this. So I knew before these guys even had an idea that something was going to happen here in Citrus County, and I'm so thankful that the Lord has brought us in together.
And Mike, thank you. We are a better eldership team for you being here, and we're thankful for you. You know, the funny thing is, it didn't take us 40 years of wandering to get here, right? It's just a couple for some of us, and so God's plan is still God's plan. And so we say things like, we're never going to be this type of church. Can you hear God chuckle a little bit? You have no idea. But He's ready. He was readying us. He was getting us to this point. And you guys know we're not done, right? If God gives us more time, this is just the start. This is preseason. We're not even to the season yet. You guys know we've got a lot of plans. Once again, God could laugh at some of those and create something totally different, but we are reaching to that generation Mike was looking for. This generation, this is not about, church is not about us, and it never has been. It's about what can we provide? How do we draw people to God? That is our job, and that's literally what our job is. How do we make Jesus' name famous, right? Dave, how do we make Jesus' name famous? And so that's what we're committed to be doing. What it looks like, we can draw it up, but we don't really know. And so, being that we've been on the fly for this long, guys, kind of tell me what you've learned in this process, and that includes you. I mean, just watching from the outside in, but obviously God had you in our paths for a reason, so you guys can just take turns, but tell me what you've learned in this process, because it's been hard, but I call it the funnest hard job I've ever had.
For those who never saw this building before, it looks as beautiful as this. this is not what I thought God wanted for you guys. Yeah. And when we get into that, we can go into more detail. But what I've learned through this process is that it's not what I think is supposed to happen. It's what He wants to happen. I was so sure that this was not the answer.
True story.
I'll pass until we come back to that.
Patience and that one of the most important things we do is to allow others to serve. The more people we get involved in this, there's a whole bunch of you in this room that have been involved in many a Tuesday work day, a Saturday work day, who knows, all kinds of opportunities to do stuff, showing up here, doing stuff. Drove up here the other day and there was a half dozen people out in the back trimming trees and trimming shrubs and stuff like that we didn't do nothing about, and it's just awesome. Just allowing people to step up and be a part of this, because that's what will keep people here. So all of us that have jobs can't encourage people anymore to be willing to give away your job. So you see somebody, ask them if they'd like to serve, because the odds are, if they can, they do. They want to be connected to here, and God knows we've got plenty of stuff that needs to be done here on Sunday. We're all behind the scenes, realizing there's like 20 things that we didn't do today, but you guys aren't going to notice and aren't going to care, but it would be nice to have people that want to step up and be part of that, and I've already seen that here today. Already seen people, being willing to give away their job, or just, hey, what can I do? So that would be mine.
Repeat that question, Pat.
Just what have you personally learned during this process? What has God shown you?
Yeah, so I wear hearing aids, and sometimes don't hear as clearly as I should. But what I've learned from this process, first of all, and someone already mentioned it, it's all about God. It's all about God's timing. And first and foremost, everything begins with prayer. And so I learned that we got to trust in God. Just get on the ship and ride, and he's riding. And so, as Glenn was saying, it's a whole lot has taken place. I learned a lot. I thought I knew a little bit about church planning, but I didn't know anything, especially when it comes to, as we said, breaking it down and putting it back together. So, one of the things that we had hoped and thought that we had in hand was a walk-in building, and that didn't happen. That fell through, and so we wouldn't have to do anything. But I learned teamwork. I knew teamwork. I've been in the Army, so I knew teamwork. But I learned teamwork and working with people, and it calls for unification, and without that, you're not really going to get anywhere. And so Glenn often talk about all of us being put together, and brothers that can work with, and that's very important. So a lot of things, I've picked up and maybe say relearn and growed in as well, and that's unity. I mean, our Bible talks about that. Paul talks about it in the Corinthians, the body and how each joint supply, and so. But yes, that's it. A lot of teamwork, a lot of hard work.
So being a guy of few words, you've heard this word several times today, but patience. So mine was a 17-year patient
Not 40 though.
But it worked.
But not 40 years.
But not 4 years. Yeah, 17 years. Yeah. Let me go ahead and say that, on our journey back and forth to CCW over the years, We had seen this facility multiple times. My wife and I, as we would drive by, we would say, wow, that'd be a fantastic place for a church. Look where it's located. I think I had this conversation with Pat when they were originally looking for a facility, and I said, hey Pat, you know, there's a facility right on 19 that's an old furniture store. I think it'd be an ideal. And he said, oh yeah, you know, we looked at that building. It's too much money and it's got too many leaks in it. Okay. So anyway, here we are.
So I've heard this so much. Raise your hand if you guys have thought what he just thought, because I've heard this from a lot of you guys. Yeah. It's amazing how many of you thought this way, and we weren't thinking it in the beginning. We're like, oh, it had a lot of, the prior inhabitants were little critters that run around at night. We had to usher them out before we could move in, but we did, so just know that.
I won't disclose the other location, but this is what I'll say about that, because I was so sure that was it. It was 2 church buildings on a gorgeous piece of property. All I could see in that was Clarence. We had him sit down and actually make the final offer. Okay. The offer was so far below, it was less than half the fair market value of the property. And they said yes. I couldn't believe they said yes. Hugs and kisses and handshakes, and a week later it fell through. It was, talk about turnkey, there was no way this couldn't be what God's doing for us here. So I couldn't believe it. It was like unbelievable. And it fell through. Well, it fell through because you guys wouldn't be there right now. You're the church. This is a building, and that's a building.
The amazing part of that is this place was actually purchased for much less than half of the asking price that it was right before a thing called COVID hit. So God does so many things. He's behind all the scenes. He's always in our tomorrows, figuring something out for us to make His name famous. And I'm looking at a bunch of eyeballs that I know have a desire to be on mission with us to make His name famous. I know that for sure when I look around this room. But be honest, and you kind of touched on this. When you first walked into this place, what'd you think? Be honest.
Well, the first time was before we had even known, I think, of the opportunity that was up the road. And I just completely, no way.
This was the first place we looked at.
Yeah.
Very first place we looked at was this one. For those of you that were here a few weeks ago, our buddy Phil Merrill, that was on stage with Pat, Phil and Dale Gerardin, those 2 guys were convinced that this was the place to go. And we walked in the door and we're like, ain't no way. And for those of you guys that didn't see this place, I'd be surprised if any of you would have said anything different when you walked in the door. There was doors busted down and windows busted into and bad stuff everywhere. Yeah, ceiling falling down, water. I mean, and what we were given permission that we would have support on was to find a building to rent. So even if these people had rented this place to us, we thought our first idea was maybe about $400,000 or $500,000 to kind of do this stuff. County told us, yeah, you can do that stuff. And then wait, after you get a drawing, and after you hire a GC, and after you have an electrician completely wire this place, which, by the way, hiding over in the back row over there is our buddy.
Oh, he's here.
Our buddy Reamer.
That guy needs some thanks.
He's our electrician. You can ask him about the nightmare that this place has been, because if you touch this, that falls apart, and it's been a fun ride. But we were told to go look for a place. That's really where, I knew John had a background in that, which is what we were looking for. We were riding around Citrus County trying to find a deal to rent, and there was a couple places. There's a storefront up next to the Papa John's up the road that we were. It looked like it was going to be the best possibility, and then we had reached out to some real estate, and they said, why don't you talk to these people? They might rent it. And that was the Ready to Go church up in Crystal River. And we went and talked to them, and they weren't interested, but they were interested in selling it to us for basically 50 cents on the dollar.
And 50 cents on the dollar.
And we had the bank, everything all lined up and ready to go, and literally when they backed out of the deal, they backed out of the deal the week before COVID hit. We were ready to close that next week. We would have closed on it the week of COVID hit. So we would have closed on a building, that we would not have been able to go into for months. So
God's timing.
Yeah.
What did you guys think when you walked in? Because I know, Mike, you had dreamed about it already, but
well, I didn't think very much of it myself.
He's being real nice about that.
And as John just said, we came here. I guess we made journey here about 2 or 3 times before we finally decided, okay, this looks like the best choice here out of everything that we saw, because we've seen some pretty rough places, and it was scary. Matter of fact, one of the things that stick out in my mind prior to us deciding on this place is that we took the wives out in this one place, and Glenn's wife walked in and
walk right back out.
she turned around and walked back out.
Oh, yeah.
I guess it's mold and mildew and everything else.
It's stuff like that.
Having worked in construction, I didn't think very much of it again, but in having a wife that's a real estate broker, she's always talked about definition and vision and all of that type of stuff, and I would have never thought that. And we want to thank all of the guys that work. Rima, thank you, you're here today, that worked in this building and made it what it is now. If you had saw it when we first got it, it was just well, of course, it was a furniture store, so what can you think? A lot of doors and a lot of walls, and gonna make this into a sanctuary? That's what I thought. Not much of it, but.
So you know that we had a vision that this could have been a dynamic place, but what's more impressive for me than to remember what it was like is to see you here today, to see over 200 people that have a passion and a willingness and are servants at heart, and I just look so forward to ministering with all of you through the years.
Yeah, amen. I know you already touched on it, but in all seriousness, when you guys get a chance, Reamer likes a lot of hugs. Hug that guy and just tell him thanks, because he has done a lot to get us here, way outside of expectations, and just the thank yous are not the right amount of words for your help here. But it was weird when we sat here with we had talked to a general contractor who was retiring. He was kind of anyway. We were sitting right over here. There used to be a big door there, and he had kind of walked the place with us, and we kind of got to the spot where we were all kind of gathered there, and he said these words: "Y'all haven't paid for this already, have you?" We knew we may be in some trouble, but once again, what Mike just mentioned, the faces, the smiles, it's all worth it. I mean, it really has been all worth it. There has literally been blood, sweat, and tears in this place, and every one of them have been worth it. And I'm really excited to see what God is going to do in the future here. If He lets us have a future, we don't know that, but if He does, I'm really excited about what God is going to do in this place through a bunch of people like us, right? By the way, unless you're part of the Witness Protection Program, how many people here live in Sugar Mill Woods? Is that why you probably ended up here? That would not have happened probably if we were up in Crystal River. And so God knew what He was doing long before we did, and still does. And so we are thankful that, and not just Sugar Mill, Waldenwood, like there's a lot of communities right around here that probably wouldn't, you may not be sitting here if we were not here. So God is so much smarter than us. But last question, we need some encouragement. So we are a church plant, and one day down the road we will plant another church. You guys need to know that up front. We know that our mission is to go, and I don't know where the next go is. That will be up to the people who want to do that. We don't know even when that is, but we need to know that ingrained in our culture, we are a go church. We are planting, our mission is to go into the world, not expect them to come to a big building we built here. So that being said, how would you guys encourage somebody who might be sitting here thinking, I could do this maybe, or I could be part of this, or maybe in your case, I could definitely support people who go. So take your turn.
I'd say, don't get too comfortable where you're at. Keep the Great Commission first and foremost. Well, love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind, and your neighbor too. But yeah, the Great Commission, I mean, that's the last words to us. We are to go. And you guys have already got a leadership that is committed to that. And there are some potential leaders out there right now that may never consider that they might be a potential leader. It's what Jesus said to us. So that's what we have to do. And these guys, as much as I have some insight, there was trials here, in case you don't realize it. There's a lot of trials these guys went through. But there was still the joy. And consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of any kind, because you know the testing of your faith develops perseverance, and perseverance must finish its work in you so that you may become mature, complete, and not lacking anything. And if any of you lacks wisdom, ask the Lord, and He will greatly provide for you. But do not doubt. These guys never doubted. You've got a great leadership team here. So support them.
And Glenn too.
Love you, John. Thanks. Thanks. Awesome encouragement. Can't wait to talk to you afterwards. Okay. Whose idea was it to bring him here? I mean, really, I just can't agree more. It's be prepared. No matter, don't get so focused on what you think is next for you and is right for you. Because the 36 of us that left Building D at CCW and came here were thinking differently. That's why we were, especially me. We met for almost a year, not knowing what was next. We just knew we were going somewhere. We had some ideas on and off, but we never knew. We never knew for sure, and that didn't deter us. It didn't make us think, no, this ain't right. It's just we're waiting for the time, and like I already talked about the one deal falling through the week before COVID hit. We could have been at that point like, okay, Jesus, we get it. Unfortunately, that's when he was laughing. He goes, wait till I show you. That piece of junk building you looked at? that all of us said, no, it can't be that. Like Pat says, they dropped the price a lot on this, and I know without a doubt that this is. If you had told us in the beginning, we would have never done it. That would have been, oh man, it's way too much work. How are we going to get the money? All that stuff would have come into our minds. But not only was this the right place to go and the right place to be because of what we see here, over 200 people. We started as 36. Our first service here, I think we had 60 when we, met under our tent at the time. So to see the numbers growing in spite of, our lack of consistent, heat or cooling, and all the trials that we had, how do you know that this is where we are or where we're supposed to be, and to all of you that. And it may be us. We may be the ones called to plant the next church. I mean, I would have told you no, but I would have told you no 3 years ago that Sandy and I aren't going anywhere. So her and I talked, we're just keeping our mouths shut because if I say it, we can prove you wrong. So I don't know what's next. I don't know which one to use. You guys are going to go. I just know that when we go back and visit CCW now, that's not home. This is home. That's family. That we're going, going and visiting family, but this is home now. This is where we belong, at least for right now. And I look forward to seeing who among us is going to step up over the next, bunch of years. Probably our next church plant is going to be right next door. Like we talked about, we know that we've got, we're going to have a property. But after that, if we do build something there, that'll be the last thing we build here. Our next thing, which was mentioned already, is going to be the next church plant. So it might even be in that building that that backed away, up in Crystal River. But you never know.
No.
So yeah, just be prepared. Just be prepared to serve, because there's just pure joy in it. All the hard work. How many, raise your hands, how many of you have had the blessed opportunity to show up here and contribute on a work day? It's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome to see y'all here. Man, none of us, we all left here a little sore and dirty, but we all left here just with joy in our hearts. We had fun doing it. And some of the relationships that were built by doing that work together, they'll last a lifetime. So thank you. Thank you for all of you that have. And for those of you that haven't, we got more coming up.
All right, encouragement from the other side over there.
So, I try to think in scripture about everything.
He does.
So, not enough. I thought I talked loud enough. I went after. I guess James, where you at, James? James done a great job with the hearing aids that I'm wearing now. So now I talk too low instead of louder. But by way of encouragement, for those that may be, whenever the appointed time comes, the scripture says, acknowledge the Lord in all our ways, and he'll direct the path. And so that's the first thing that we do. We talk to God about whatever decisions that we are thinking about or planning on making, and then we pray about it. And as we done, prior to leaving CCW, before we was getting ready to come for this church plant, we talked, we prayed, we fasted, and then God started giving the increase of those of us that decided to come. So first and foremost is consult the Lord, and of course, if you're married, talk with your wife ahead of time. Make sure you're on the same page. Understand that in a church plant, as you can see, in most of the guys that been doing a lot of the work days around here, there's much work that goes on with, especially, and we didn't even start from the ground up. We started with the building, so we start from the ground up, and there's much more work taking place physically, and then so the spiritual has to kick in order for you to maintain the physical, because sometimes you get a little tired and you get a little irritable, and all of these types of things have come into play. So it's a lot that goes into it. So really think about it, and again, pray about it, consult the Lord.
My encouragement for you would be, maybe you're not the person who ultimately steps up and says, I'll go. But those people that go, they create a void. And that's where then other people can step up. So I encourage you to look at your skills, your abilities, your talents, how God's gifted you, and what area can you move into? Where can you be? Where can you be ready when that group of 35 or 36 or 50 or 200, whatever, goes and it makes that next plant? Where can you step up and where can you step in?
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. This isn't everybody's jam to be up here on stage in front of people. It's actually not mine, believe it or not. My spiritual gifting is more of servant, so I'd much rather be passing out communion or something, but God gets to do what he wants with me when I say I belong to him. So, and this is what it really is about, that same sentiment. God gets to say what he does with you when you say, I belong to you now. And so, whatever that looks like, maybe you plant a church in the future, maybe you support somebody, but we have a common phrase right here, find your replacement, train up your replacement, so that this can continue to be a thing. We have another phrase right here, we want to leave church better than we found it, and so I'm committed to that, and I know these guys are, I know you are. We want to leave church better than we found it. So we're going to celebrate God for the next couple weeks. We can't go this long in the next couple weeks, obviously, because we'll have 2 services. But thank you guys for coming up. But I want to close with this. We're going to sing a song. But would you guys mind standing with me? I'm going to read through another psalm with you guys, and then we'll pray. But this is the 100th psalm, and I love this one. And I know I say that a lot, but I got a lot of favorite verses in Scripture in the Bible because I just do. It says this: shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Just think about that. Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come before Him with joyful songs. That's what we've been doing this morning. Know that the Lord is God. It is He who made us, and we are His. Thank God. We are His. We are His people, the sheep of His pasture. Verse 4, enter His gates with thanksgiving and His courts with praise. Give thanks to Him and praise His name. Verse 5, for the Lord is good and His love endures forever. His faithfulness continues through all generations. Proof sitting here today that it lasts all generations. We are the next generation to feel the love of God. I love that psalm. Guys, we don't know what's next, but we know God's in it. And we know if we just surrender to Him, His powerful right hand can do many, many things. And He'll even use people like you and I. Thank God for that, right? Right. Would you mind closing us out in prayer, our guest? Thank you so much.
Father, as I look out over this congregation, I am so thankful, Lord, that you've brought them here to this place and provided this place. Lord, I know that many will come to you because of a few faithful souls who stepped out in faith, committed to your mission for us, Lord. You make it so simple for us to have our sins forgiven, Lord. Your words are clear. You've proven yourself to us over and over and over again in our lives. We just need to believe, Father, and obey. We love you, Father. We praise your holy name. We thank you for your Son, Christ Jesus. We thank you that He laid His life down for us and provided the path to you. And I pray, Father, that this place will draw many. That these people, Father, your children, will draw many to you in this place. You are faithful, Lord. It's up to us to be faithful. We pray to increase our faith, Lord, to never doubt, to have patience and wait on you, and to remember how you've blessed these people, all of us, because of your promises. It's in Christ Jesus' name we pray.
Yes. In Matthew 18, and this is Jesus' words, for where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there am I with them. If you felt His presence in this place this morning, church. Yeah.
Next week, remember, 2 services, 9 and 11. One of the things we do strongly believe in here is the power of prayer. You heard it all morning. You heard the guys talk about it. We believe that God talks to us. If we just stop, talk with Him, spend some time with Him. We have a prayer team that's going to meet over here every week in this corner. Coming up for prayer, I know it's not everybody's favorite thing, but if you want to if you feel like we want to be prayed for and with, just right over in this corner. And not just for prayer requests. If you want to just share with these guys something where God has shown up in your life, you want to praise His holy name and celebrate Him. A great place to do that right over here on this side as well. The last thing is, spend some time this week considering what the Lord has done in your life. Celebrate it for that. We want to be people that celebrate God. Celebrate this day. It's been so fun to do it with you guys. We'll see you next week. Love you guys.